G'day, I'm Becky.
G'day, I'm Scotty.
And welcome to our first YouTube video.
We're thinking of making an attempt at building a new chess table. This is the current one we have.
That we sometimes use every now and again, not professionally, but we give it a crack.
Yeah, after watching The Queen's Gambit, we've sort of been on YouTube and learned a little bit about middle games, end games and starting moves. So we thought it's probably about time for an upgrade.
So I got to keep not looking down as well.
Yeah, and don't.
Well, don't do that.
Well, I'll try not to do that, but just be normal.
I know, be normal.
That's normal.
That was normal. Now there's a fly in here.
So we've done some electronics in the past. I do programming quite often and the 3D printer's up and running quite well.
And we've been looking on a few websites for a few ideas on what might make this chessboard maybe a little bit more cooler to play with. And we actually found we could probably light this chessboard up, and I think maybe we should actually light it up.
Yeah. So RGB lights, so we can pick colours, change them around for things like if you're in check, we'll make them red, show valid moves in blue.
Oh, we can do multicolour. Oh, okay.
Yes, definitely.
I like that.
We just have to figure out what for when.
Well, that will come into the programming side of things, which I think you can handle.
Yeah. So we're thinking of using some motors and magnets. So if we want to play single player, we can use the computer with some AI and get the computer moves to actually use a magnet to grab the piece and move it, and some read switches, so when we move our ones, it will know where we went, the computer will make a move its bit, and it'll be really cool. But if we want to play two players, then we can still have the LEDs light up to show valid moves, checks and checkmates and things like that.
We were thinking of a few ideas early in the morning when we were having our coffee, and we put our coffees on a coffee table. And I think that coffee table might be a good idea to use as a platform for the chess table that we're going to build. And this coffee table has a glass top. Perfect.
Yeah, that's much better idea than trying to build a whole board out of scratch using wood or something. So at least we've got a starting point.
And the lights, I think, will shine through that glass, through the bottom, and be perfect.
Yeah.
And we can still have a coffee of a morning.
Yes. So a nice little corner piece in the side of the room when we're not using it as a chessboard.
Multi-table. Okay, so here's our coffee table that we were talking about earlier that we're going to make a chessboard out of.
Yeah, you've got a nice glass top, and the benefit is you can take it off so we can get in and fit motors and muck around with whatever we need to.
And that's where we were hoping to put all of the electricals underneath the table, so we can still use the table on top and have our coffees.
Well, here's our first attempt at a 3D print we made. You can see we made a little box. We've left a hole in it for the LED to go into and printed a little lid which will just clip on. And as you can see, it leaves a little outline, and the idea is the LED will hopefully light up just a little square around the outside rather than the whole square itself, so we don't get a big dot in the middle and it gets dimmer as it goes to the outside. So we've made a little test Arduino board here.
And programmed it.
It's got a RGB LED, which hopefully shows up on camera okay. If not, you can see the reflection in the table.
Works well.
And blue does too.
Yeah. Alright, let's see how it goes in the actual square.
So yes, we'll chuck him in.
Hey, alright.
Ah, yes.
It's going around the sides, but there is a bright light in the middle.
Yes, but I think that's a very good start. Pretty much exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only other thing we've got to try is at the moment it's just bare 3D plastic. It'd be good to get some sort of reflective surface to maybe bounce the light around a bit better even.
What about aluminium foil?
Okay, so we've done a simple test. Just put some alfoil in on the lid and the base. So if we clip that together, there we go. Get the light working again. It should now reflect around and give a bit better of a light effect. And I think it is.
Oh, and it's taken out that bright light from the middle of the square as well.
Ah, yes, definite bonus.
Yeah. Although you can see the aluminium foil.
Yes, you can in the corners.
And just, yeah, the corners, yeah.
As well as the prints in the corners. Cover up a little bit, leaves little squares there.
Maybe we might need to redesign our square a little bit.
Okay, we've 3D printed a new square. Same thing, a box with a hole in it. And this time we've left a little bit of edge around our lid. So the grooves in the middle should light up, and if there's any artifacts from 3D printing or unclean sides, they're going to be hidden by the little edge, as well as move the holding pieces from the corners into the center, which I think will give a nice rounded look on the corners, which will be good. So we went to Bunnings and we found this Super Chrome spray paint. So hopefully it's nice and shiny because it wasn't cheap.
The lid looks shiny, so fingers crossed.
Yes. So we gave them a spray paint before. As you can see, there's a nice shiny surface on it, as well as there. So if I assemble that one, get the light going again. This time,
Look at that.
yes, we've got a nice rounded square now.
Yeah, that light comes back though.
Yeah, no artifacts on the sides, which is great.
No, nice and clear, and the light's coming through.
Yeah, the light's in the middle a bit, but we can cover that with some alfoil or
Maybe defuse it with some paper or something.
yes, actually that's a good idea. Yeah, we did a little bit of trial and error and found baking paper works really well for this. If you put that over, get it nice and flat and try to get the LED in the middle. It really diffuses the light quite nicely.
Makes the outline more defined though, which is excellent.
Yes, that's definitely what we want. And I think it has the added benefit of when it turns off, you can't even see there's holes or squares there, which will be great. So here's another test just with it under the glass table. I think it looks terrific.
Mr. Moon, what are you doing, Suki?
Moo moo.
Hi.
Hi.
New day. We thought we'd start off trying to mount the motors to the table so we can get a bit of a test going. So we found these on eBay and ordered some. They're electrical box fuse holders.
And we saw a few YouTube channels, people making some 3D printers and using these, so
Yeah, so we were thinking of giving that a go, but once you get the bearings on them and things, we're seeing they're a bit loose for a 3D printer, but for our chess table, it should do fine. And they actually happen to be a very close fit to our whole table.
And if we get the two of them going,
Yeah.
we've got the side action.
And we've got a third one that we can get running across this way. All that fits in our tables. And we should be able to 3D print some little clips to hold it on without too much fuss at all.
Beautiful. I don't know how I want to hold them. Oh, I just do this. Alright, off to do some 3D printing. Nope, we're not. Yes. Alright, off to do some measurements and do some 3D printing.
So sometime later, after doing some designing and 3D printing, this is what we've come up with. We've got some little clips here to help put the motors and everything onto the table. So the general idea is we left this in so we can screw it into the table, and we've made a spot for the motor, as well as just some holders to hold up the metals. So the idea is you can clip these together, just like so. I've left some little holes to put some screws through later. And these metal rods will sit on the bars with some holes to bolt them on, like so. So the next bit is to attach it to the table.
Okay, now time to assemble, and we'll give you a montage for that one.
So we've got these mounted now. We did our best to get them at the same height and nice and level. So now it will be time to attach the rails, which you can see will just sit nicely in the little grooves we made.
Beautiful.
So we've got some bearings that we ordered. They're groove bearings which will sit right on the rail, and if we get them nice and tight, we can put a little carriage across there and get them to run using that, with the idea that we'll get this one on here running back and forth and a carriage going that way, so that we can get quite a bit of degree of movement from getting right from the front to the back and right up to where the rails go. Seeing the chessboard will probably be in the middle, we should have it all covered and hopefully leave enough room to move pieces off when they get taken and things like that.
Okay, and it sounds like we're off to do a bit more 3D printing. We've printed that, now let's put it together. Okay, now we've got everything attached to the tables on each corner, and we've got everything attached to the bar here. We'll attach that now to the table, and hopefully it will run smoothly.
Yep, as you can see, we've got the motor on here attached through, and all our bearings nice and square, so they should fit on the rails. I will give that a go.
We'll pop the rails in.
And so they should slot in between the bearing grooves, which they do quite nicely. And
Okay, you hold that,
pop
and
it on
I'll
the table.
try
Yep,
this
you get
side.
yours in, Becky.
Concentration of the nation. In. Okay, and what's that movement?
Yeah, so we've got a nice little slide there. Ripped in a couple of bits, but I'm sure we can adjust some bolts and get that really nice. And we 3D printed a carriage with the same bearings, so we've just left two loose for now. So it should fit on here, and the loose ones will fit over. And then when we tighten them, it should go all nice and not come off. So we also made a little lid for it, just as a test, left the holes, because we're not sure if we're going to use electromagnets or magnets, but that will allow us to try a few things. And we'll just clip on the top like that. So nice, we've got nice movement that way, as well as around the whole thing.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so the next step now will be to get the motors on here and here, get some pulley belts, make some electronics.
And hopefully it will start moving by itself.
Yeah, and get some joystick or something to give it a motorised test. G'day.
G'day, we're back after a few days and we've progressed with a few more things, so we'll show you now.
Yep, we've got our main slider hooked up, added a timing belt in and made some fine adjustments and got our little pulley on this side. So we've been doing some electronics and some programming and have got a bit of a setup ready to go. So we'll give you a close look at that now. Okay, so here's the board we've come up with. We've got a little Arduino we've programmed, our stepper motor, and we've added in a joystick and hooked it up so that Arduino will read the joystick's analog movements and then tell the stepper motor to either move left or right. No speed or anything, it's all just one way or the other. And left a little pin header here so we can plug the motor in and out so we don't have to disconnect the actual wiring pins from the breadboard every time. So let's give it a test. Okay, so we've got a nice power supply here. It's one out of an old PC, and the beauty is it's got a 12 volt line and a 5 volt line because the stepper motors use 12 volts where the Arduino uses a 5 volt supply. So I've got it all hooked up as I showed you before. I just plug the motor in, and if we add some power now, we can give it a test. So using the joystick we made, you can see we've got our movement going.
We have movement.
It's looking quite nice, that's exactly what we're after. Runs very smoothly.
Excellent.
So I guess next we'll have to put it back into the table and then look at hooking up the other axis with motors as well.
Alrighty.
Yeah,
So
see you in a
let's
bit.
get to it. Bye.
Volcano everywhere.
What do you think you're doing, mister? Hey, what do you think you're doing? Oh, that was a nice little look, mister.
Okay, montage time. You just did a brown eyes on it. Alrighty, that's done, so what's next?
Okay, so now it's all hooked up. We've just got to update our electronics board to run the two new motors and write some more code to get it going on the other axis of the joystick. So back
Okay.
in a bit.
Looks like we'll have to do some programming. Alright, now we're back and we've made a few adjustments and done some programming.
Yep, I've updated the circuit board, got the two new motors working with two new steppers and added the joystick to control them. And I'll give you a look at the circuit board close up. Here's the new circuit board. So I've added two more stepper controllers, which I've hooked up to the other axis of the joystick. And as you can see, we've got a lot more wires running around, but we'll clean that up in the end and put it onto a circuit board if it all works out.
And now we'll take a look and see if it'll move correctly.
Okay, we've got the normal axis working still, as well as the new axis now.
Okay, nice.
Yes, working very nice. And you can also move them at the same time.
Ah, now that's a nice smooth action there.
Yeah, we couldn't be happier with it.
That's excellent. Okay. Excellent.
Cool. Okay, so we've put some magnets on our top piece and put the glass table back on and thought we'll give it a test with the chest piece.
And the chest piece we found on Thingiverse, so we 3D printed it out and popped a magnet in the bottom, so hopefully it will move once we've got everything on. Yes. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. So that looks like it's connecting well. It's moving the piece over the board.
That was so cool.
All right.
Magic. Okay, so we've printed a new square. It's a bit bigger than our old one. We've measured the table and figured that's a better size to fit on the table, leaving us enough room on the side and stuff to do some extra stuff. We've also left the bottom open rather than have the top lid clip on, so we can get in some reed switches and we'll just put them all onto a board to hold them all straight.
And here's the wooden frame board that we've created to put the pieces on.
Yeah, we've printed a few to start with already, but obviously
okay.
we've got a lot more to go.
Alrighties, looks like we're off to do some more 3D printing. Bye. Okay, so we've printed off the 64 squares for the chessboard, which took a very long time, so Scott will agree with that one.
Yeah, 2 days.
A very long time, and as you can see, they're all here.
Yeah, so we've got more white than blue. We used the rest of our blue filament, moved on to white, but we'll arrange them in a colour order, but they're not exactly half-half, but we're going to cover it with a piece of paper to diffuse all the light anyway, so it doesn't matter what colour they are.
Ah, cool.
So we'll put it together in a bit of a montage.
Beautiful.
Okay, well that wraps up part 1 of our video. For part 2, we got these new LEDs, because using these ones have 4 pins each, and you could imagine the wiring mess that would make, where these LED strips use 4 wires to run the whole thing as they're individually addressable LEDs, which will make it look really nice.
And they're very bright. So, we'll be back for part 2, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
See
Ciao.
you later. G'day, Scotty here. Oh, that's the aim.
Oh, yeah, I know. And I was like, should I say and, or should I just say g'day, Becky?
G'day, Becky. I'd say g'day, I'm Becky. Or to say, and Becky.
G'day, I'm Becky.
Or say,
No, g'day, I'm Becky. That's it.